I'm Joe Skrebels, this is Reb Valentine. We have both been lucky enough to play Pentiment, the new Xbox exclusive from Obsidian of Fallout New Vegas and all the other games fame. Pentiment feels very different, and we were kind of both talking about the fact that this game seems to strip back so much of what Obsidian's done with RPG storytelling and kind of turn it into more of a straight piece of interactive fiction. Do you think, is this them building on their history in that area, do you think?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I think it's honing in. It's zooming in on one specific aspect that they do very well. There's been a lot of conversation over the years about what it means to have choice in games and how that should actually make a player feel. And I get the sense from Pentiment that choice is going to matter in a very different way than we are used to it mattering, if that makes sense. It's less about finding a specific ending and more about how your choices shift your perspective and the information that you have about the situation, and then how that turns into reactions that you take to that.
I think the interesting thing about that is it's so clearly not a game about stats or success in encounters, and it's really about exploring, meeting people, and crucially I think is the choices you make at the start of the game. You choose what kind of a person you are. Can you talk about the version of Marla, the artist, that you made at the start?
Yeah, so I was able to select sort of the things that he studied in school, and I made him a logician, so he's very good at logic and factual thinking. So he was really good at persuading people and really good at making convincing arguments. And then you could also pick sort of his final years of study. You could pick the law, you could pick theology, you could pick, I think, biology was the third one. And I made him a theologian, so he was really knowledgeable about the church. And then I didn't have stats per se that I could, increase or decrease, but then in my subsequent interactions, I had different paths I was able to take through those conversations based on those things. I was trying to convince this woman who was very upset at the church to give me some information that I needed, and I had options to make theological arguments, which obviously did not work very well on her.
In my version, so I took a different path. The game is about, or at least at the start, is about a murder mystery of sorts, and my guy went to examine a body, and I kind of knew that was coming up, so I purposely chose him to have that biological medical background, because I thought, oh, this is going to open up a bunch of different things. I also made my guy a hedonist who just loves having a crazy good time, and so when I went in, we started examining this body. There was this beautiful element of it's not that beautiful actually. It's drawing the injuries on the corpse, but it's done in this amazing notebook pencil sketch style. And as you're talking, the notes, the drawing gets more and more detailed. And so I went in going, oh, I'm going to talk about all the medical stuff. And then the topic of syphilis came up, and my guy was like, I'm a hedonist, I know all about syphilis, which was kind of amazing. But more amazing was that once that dialogue option came up, it then went into my medical background, and I could talk about the disease and its symptoms and that kind of thing. And so it feels like these choices aren't just offering you hey, every so often you'll get a hedonist option, or every so often you'll get a medical option. They can dovetail into each other, and it feels like you could legitimately maybe have 3 or 4 strings of stuff if you've got the right traits. And I think that's the really exciting thing. Like you were saying, this isn't a game that seems to be aiming for better endings or anything like that, but the journey you get feels like it could alter so much based on those stats. Do you think, where do you think this is going with that stuff? How deep do you think that's getting from your playthrough?
So the thing that they promised in sort of the announcement of this game is that it's a murder mystery where you may never find out who the murderer is, but your perspective and your journey will sort of inform who you end up accusing of it, or who you think deserves to be punished for it. And I can already tell, just sort of based off the different kinds of, because it didn't seem like I had a necessarily a pass or fail state in my conversation with the woman who I was trying to get information from. So I think depending on the different information you have, the different encounters you have, the different people you meet, and your background, you can't min-max this. You can't do the entire game and get every single piece of information and then get a right answer. My playthrough seems like it's going to be very different than yours, and just solely based on our perspectives and the story that we choose to tell.
That is a little slice of Pentiment. It's out very soon. It's on Game Pass. It will be very easy to get to. I think that's going to be a big part of its appeal, that people will just get to go and try out something that they might not ever have looked at otherwise. We are surely going to cover more of it on IGN, and we are going to cover way more from Gamescom as well. So keep it locked for the rest of this weekend and beyond if you want to.